Well, an uneasy calm has taken hold in Lebanon after Israel directed its military to limit itself to defensive actions only in the country. Clashes over the weekend between the Israeli military and Hezbollah had threatened to derail a preliminary peace deal between the U.S. and Iran. Tehran has insisted the deal requires Israel to end all hostilities in the region, including Lebanon. In a social media post, U.S. President Donald Trump threatened to resume attacks on Iran if it doesn't prevent its proxy Hezbollah from, quote, causing trouble. Let's get some analysis now with Sina Azadi from George Washington University. He's author of the book Iran and the Bomb, the United States, Iran, and the Nuclear Question. Welcome to the program. Sina, after meeting with mediators in Switzerland, Iran and the U.S. have agreed to form a so-called deconflicting cell for Lebanon. It's aimed at ending military operations there involving Israel and the Iran-backed Hezbollah militia. Help us understand how this is supposed to work.
Well, the situation in Iran, in Lebanon, is very precarious for the entire region. Both sides, both Iranians and the Americans, are dealing with their allies. That's in Iran's case, it's Hezbollah. It's Iran's non-state ally in Lebanon, and for Israel, for the United States, is Israel. And because of these clashes between Hezbollah and the Israelis, this memorandum of understanding that was signed last week is under a lot of pressure, and both Iranians and Americans are very concerned that conflict, not in Iran, but someplace else, would undermine their efforts. Of course, the Qataris and Pakistanis, who are also mediating between Iranians and Americans, are also concerned. So I believe that ending the conflict in Lebanon is very critical to ending the entire conflict in the region, and the peace negotiations that are already underway between Iran and the United States with the help of Pakistanis and Qataris.
So, fighting in Lebanon has been paused, in quotation marks, since Saturday evening. How fragile is the ceasefire there, and are you confident it will hold now with these negotiations between Iran and the U.S. underway?
Well, you cannot be confident about anything in international politics because anything can go wrong. It will be very critical for Iranians to restrain Hezbollah from attacking Israel, and it will also equally important for Washington to ensure that the Israelis don't attack southern Lebanon, because this would mean that Hezbollah might want to retaliate against Israelis, and all of a sudden, again, we're back into full-scale conflict in the region. In the past few days, we've seen more, criticism from Vice President Vance of Israel, because from his perspective, and who is, by the way, directly involved in negotiations, Israeli actions could jeopardize the peace negotiations with Iranians. My sense is that behind the scenes, Iranians are also trying to pressure Hezbollah to stand down, and I believe the same thing is happening in Washington.
What are the best options now for the U.S. administration to come to an acceptable agreement with Iran that would also include Lebanon?
Well, based from what we've seen, despite what President Vance called threats and whinings, the negotiations went constructively yesterday. This morning, we had a general license issued by the U.S. Treasury, which gave a waiver for the export of Iran's oil and shipping until August of this year for 60 days. This means that something behind the scenes is working properly. He also announced that Iran is going to re-invite the International Atomic Energy Agency inspectors back to Iran. So, which I believe this means that the negotiations are going in the right direction. because, as I said, both sides really need this peace process to work. On the U.S. side, we are headed toward midterm elections in the U.S. President Trump doesn't want gas prices to go up. In the past few days that we've heard the good news of peace talks. The gas has gone down in the United States. Global economy is really dependent on the opening of the Strait of Hormuz. Iranians also need sanctions relief after this war because the inflation is up, unemployment is high, especially after this war. So both sides, as I said, have a vested interest. And this process and this dialogue between Iranians and Americans is the only pathway forward to bring some peace and stability to the region.
Well, this dialogue is set to continue. A fifth round of direct talks between Lebanese and Israeli officials in Washington is to begin tomorrow on Tuesday. What are we expecting from those talks?
Well, I believe that Israelis would want the Lebanese government to pressure Hezbollah to disarm completely. The Lebanese side would want the Israelis to evacuate southern Lebanon, what the Israelis have called the security zone. The Prime Minister of Israel has said, I believe he announced it yesterday, that they're not going to leave that security zone. So I think there's going to be a lot of back and forth between them. Vice President Vance announced this morning that he wants the sovereignty of Lebanon to be protected. He also announced that he wants the security of Israel to be protected. So I think the issues will be first the issue of Hezbollah and the disarming of Hezbollah. This has actually been offered by Iranians in the past. In 2003, Iranians offered to transform Hezbollah into a merely political organization operating within the framework of the Lebanese constitution. Now, whether this will happen or will be offered this time around, that I don't know. But I think the key issues are, one, the security zone that the Israelis are in southern Lebanon, and disarming of Hezbollah.
Sina, thank you very much for your insights. That was Sina Azadi, Program Director of Middle East Studies at George Washington University.